Thank you for watching another live edition of the East West Football Podcast. I am Fidel Barraza. Alongside with me, like always, Jerry Martinez, Kendall Whitley, and our special guest tonight, Patriots insider with NBC Sports Boston, Tom Curran. Tom, thanks so much for joining us. How you doing?
I'm great. Thanks, boys. Appreciate you having me. We got a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
Yes,
we want to
we
give
do.
we want to give you a round of applause real quick.
All right,
Appreciate
Tom.
that.
So let's get started. So obviously a very up and down season for the New England Patriots. My first question to you is, if you could choose a word to describe the 2022 New England Patriots, what would it be?
Can I take two words?
Of course.
Predictably disastrous.
Wow.
You want me to expound on those?
Yes,
Predictably, in that once it became clear by March, it became clear at the owners' meetings that the plan was to have Josh McDaniels succeeded by individuals who had not coached extensively on the offensive side of the ball, had not run a West Coast offense, which we began to see in really late May, early June. We're like, hey, they run a lot of stretch stuff here. They're running a lot of outside stuff. So as we went along, Bill knew it himself, I think, to a degree, that there was going to be a learning curve for those guys, for Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, and for Mac Jones. But the predictable aspect was, if you're going to change it and you're going to go to these guys who are basically HVAC guys and tell them to put the roof on the house, there's going to be some damage. Just some hammers are going to land on some fingernails. So that's basically what happened. And I think it was disastrous in that by the end of training camp, they still had not made any traction. They lost the faith of the players in many ways. You look at a guy like Kendrick Bourne, who was a 55-catch, 800-yard guy. I got hooked on these numbers because they were so impressive. He was targeted 70 times in 2021, caught 55 friggin' balls. It's like 75% for a wide receiver. So you want to build on that. You want to build on Mac Jones' rookie year. You want to move forward from a 10-7 season to be an 11-6 team. Instead, they took 2 or 3 steps back and lost some of the faith. So I think that is what's disastrous about it. So fortunately, guys, they've moved quickly to remedy the situation.
Yeah, and with that being said, Bill O'Brien is now going to be the offensive coordinator for the New England Patriots. Just really quick, I just want to talk again. Like, why do you think that Matt Patricia was the one that Bill chose to be the offensive coordinator for the Patriots?
Trust. Well, there's a lot of reasons. One, he was available and standing right there. 2, Bill had grown weary of year after year having to replenish his staff. Now, he could have anticipated that Josh McDaniels at some point was going to get a job, but even had he done so, he had lost a litany of guys, whether it be Chad O'Shea or Mick Lombardi, who went with McDaniels, or Brian Flores, or just real outflow of guys. Jed Fish, who went to be the ASU head coach. So just a lot of guys. And it's been going on for a long time. And we've heard Bill articulate it at different times on NFL Films with Nick Saban. It's tough when you lose staff. So I think his thought was, Matt's going to be here. If I go get Bill O'Brien or someone else, and they're only here for a minute because they have aspirations or something else, then I'm back in the same spot I was in. So what's the worst that could happen?
Yeah. ...
We saw.
Yeah, with that being said,
worst that could happen.
Yeah. So we saw Mac Jones take the team to the playoffs his rookie season. Obviously, Josh McDaniels was there. He moved on. He's now the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. And we saw ups and downs with Mac Jones throughout the season.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that it's interesting, too, when you talk philosophically, and Kendall, I'm sure, saw this the whole time. The opportunity that the Patriots wanted to say, okay, we brought in Devontae Parker. We're not going to be check down Charlies anymore. We're going to press the ball down the field. We're going to throw some more aerial yards, more efforts at 50-50 balls. So not only were they installing a new offense, a new running game, and a new language, they also installed a philosophy that said, let's push it down the field. Next thing you know, Mac is doing that. He had some picks because of communication issues, because of location issues that were his fault as well. And then he had some decision-making problems, but he had a Baltimore game where he had no touchdowns, 3 picks, but he actually looked for 3 quarters. Kendall, verify. He looked for 3 quarters, and you're on mute, so I'm going to tell you to unmute yourself. He looked for 3 quarters like a genius. I mean, that was one of his freaking games.
I think that was by far the best game. That game and probably the Cleveland Brown game that he played last year. I think those 2 games were probably his best game. He played the Titans last year too. He had a pretty good game too. But against Baltimore, if you don't look at the box score, he threw those 3 picks. I watched the game every snap of that game. Him and Parker had great chemistry. Him and Myers had a couple things like that was a great game for Matt. Probably I think his best game of the season. That one in the Vikings game.
That one, the Vikings game. They had a miscommunication, Fidel and Jerry, on a Devontae Parker end zone pick. It looked friggin' horrendous. But my buddy Phil Perry broke it down. He looked at it and it's like Parker didn't know what he was doing. He literally couldn't figure it out. So the upshot of the answer to the question, Fidel, is he had peaks. Then he got hurt at the end of that Baltimore game. He's down for 3 games. He comes back against Chicago. I still don't understand the logic of putting him out there for 3 minutes just to pull his ass out. And then he comes back and he plays the Jets 2 times when the Patriots couldn't protect. And he got absolutely chewed up in those games because they said, don't throw another friggin' pick, okay? So he didn't, but he looked like he was scared to play. Finally, they get in against Minnesota. They play okay. Then they have a game against Buffalo, and they were terrified of getting blown out. And that's where Max started to say, what are we even doing here? So that's the arc of his season. He looked like a baby at some points, no doubt. But he actually kind of held it in for a long time, too, because he had reason to be pissed off.
Yeah, so moving forward, obviously, and the offense, improving the offense is going to be a big, a big thing that the Patriots are going to want to do. So we got free agency coming up, the draft coming up. What are some players that you think the Patriots are going to target this offseason?
I'll go more with positions right now, Fidel. They have to get better at tackle. Isaiah Wynn is almost certainly not going to be back. He's a free agent, and by the end of the year, he wasn't playing for them. I think he was put on IR, but he basically played as if he was on IR for most of the season. He just did not contribute. He was a turnstile and could have led the league in penalties on the offensive line, if not for Trent Brown, who did lead the league. So their tackle play was abhorrent. So that's got to get better. There's a lot of people up here. Kendall might be in that same group as well as a Patriots fan who's saying wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. I'm not huge on the wide receiver. They need a speed back. You look at these teams who just played this weekend. Kansas City's got Pacheco. They have Mecole Hardman. You look at San Fran. They got Debo. I'm going to lose some names because I'm going off the top of my head. Kansas City played. I'm losing the teams. Who the hell did Kansas City play?
You can add Christian McCaffrey up there.
Thank you.
I mean,
the Bengals, Mixon, not so much, but speed. And you look at the Eagles, Boston Scott's the changeup back. Ramondre Stevenson is a friggin' beast. He caught 60 balls this year. He also carried it like 225. This is not the age of giving it to a running back 300 times. And the days of James White, Kevin Falk, Danny Woodhead, Shane Vereen, those scat backs who are speed backs, that's something that I think they have to incorporate in their offense. Whoever that is, get them.
Thanks, Tom.
A name I wanted to throw in there was Kenneth Gainwell, right? Number 14 for the Eagles.
He's so fast.
Dude, he's a difference maker. He was making some plays with his speed alone. So you're right.
The week before, too.
Yeah, the week before, too.
Who the hell is Kenneth Gainwell?
Hey, Tom, and we just seen this one of the Final Four teams. We just seen Kansas City. We seen Cincinnati, Buffalo. They're 3 of the Final Four teams that were left in the AFC. How close are the Patriots to Cincinnati, Kansas City, Buffalo? You got to watch out for Jacksonville next year. I think the Chargers just hired Kellen Moore from the Cowboys and whatnot. With Trevor Lawrence in Jacksonville. How close is Matt Jones and the Patriots? I mean, just that whole team to get. Cause I think right now they're right in the middle. We're mediocre right now. We're that second pack. We're right there with Baltimore, Tennessee. I mean, a couple more teams you can throw into that mix. How far are we to those top teams? To Cincinnati, Kansas City, and Buffalo.
I think they're a long way from the top. I think that they are a long way from the Buffalo, Kansas City, Cincinnati group. And people could say, "Wait a minute, didn't they lose 22-18 to Cincinnati?" Okay. Details. And Kendall, you know this too. It was Christmas Eve. They were up 22-0 by halftime. The Patriots had done nothing in that game. And they had basically bailed, I think. Cincinnati was at home setting up train tracks in its mind already. They come back, they score 18 points off a pick six, a ricochet touchdown, Hail Mary. And people are like, yeah, we're right there with the Bengals. No, you're not. Those three teams are really good. The Patriots have to get their trust back. They have to get their offensive line play back. They have to return, too, to Fidel and Jerry, what you guys probably hated over the years. They're just so freaking smart. They were not a smart team. They weren't disciplined. They made on-field gaffes. They took timeouts at bad times. They took stupid penalties. Hopefully they can turn that around because, you look at, and all these teams kind of take stupid penalties these days, but the Patriots beat themselves frequently in 2022, and that can't happen.
Completely agree, Tom. One more thing on the Patriots. How long do you see Bill Belichick coaching? I mean, do you think I know he want to catch Shula in that record. Can you give him another 3 to 5 years, another couple years?
Yeah.
I mean
he's 18 away, Kendall. So best in a perfect world, he catches him by the end of 2024, right? I mean, it's not a layup to go win 90. I mean, he'd be at 18 wins. He'd had an outside shot at that in one season back when things were going good. If he had 20 games. Now it could take into 2025. It is important to understand, too, bear this in mind, they're running a business. And this year did not go well for Bill. And certainly I think that what we're seeing from the team itself in releasing statements, in making sure that an offensive coordinator is titled, in making sure that Gerard Mayo's presence is going to be announced, that they're keeping him around, and the Patriots taking control of some of these announcements, which Bill would never allow probably if it was on him. I think the team is saying, you know what, Bill, we gave you a lot of latitude. We let you do your thing. It was a disaster. So we're going to be more involved. So if they're more involved and there's another faceplant this year, it's a business. He is Bill. I think he gets every chance to chase Shula, but it can't look as ridiculous as it did this past year. Because there will be, just like Bill would do to somebody else on his team, he might get Belichicked. Sorry, you're either getting better or you're getting worse, and you're getting worse. Nobody wants to see that, right? You want to see the guy finish.
Last but not least, Tom, what are the chances? And we had this discussion a couple of days ago on our show. What are the chances of a Jerry Jeudy trade for New England Patriots this offseason?
That's a great question. I would have to look at the numbers on him, for instance, to see what his contractual situation is. Probably still on his rookie contract, I would guess. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
Same thing with T. Higgins, who my buddy Phil Perry will not shut up about T. Higgins.
Hey, Tom, he made an incredible catch last night.
The end zone one?
Yes. Touchdown.
There's some ridiculous catches going on. And I want to ask you guys, too. We got to get to the rest of it. I'm sorry to the sinking of this. The Devontae Smith catch, I don't want replay to be that detailed where people are acting like, look, that looked like a catch. The only thing that gave it away was him hurrying. It took 3 different replays from television to see it before you could see, with his back moves, you can see it under his arm. This isn't the Zapruder film, which is basically, you might remember that, Jerry, down there in Dallas.
I was going to say,
sorry.
I mean, you're basically kind of stabbing all Cowboys Nation right now because, I mean, that was a catch by Dez, but they said that was a no catch. So, but I'll let you get back to your point.
It's getting stupid. It's clear and obvious. You can do that expedited replay if it's clear and obvious. And you know what you had to do with that Devontae Smith catch? You had to slow it down. You had to find the third replay. You had to look under his armpit. You had to scrutinize the ball. So that means it's not clear and obvious. Like the poor bastard on Cincinnati shoving Mahomes. Everyone feels so bad. Well, it was clear and friggin' obvious.
Yeah, it was.
So that was my veer. Jerry Jeudy, Kendall, I'm not doing it. I'm going to get Phil Perry on here with you, and he can talk all day with you guys about fantasy land trades. I don't want a wide receiver.
Appreciate it, Tom.
All right, kid.
So we actually have somebody tuning in with us, Tom, and they actually have a question for you. They say, this is Javier Zuniga says 2-part question for Tom. Bill knew he was losing McDaniels. Why was he not ready for it? Being he is very detailed coach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I guess I guess we can leave the second question, right? Because the second one is Mac Jones the future, or do the Patriots move on from Mac Jones?
Great
So
question.
yeah,
Yeah,
they're
Javier.
both really good questions.
Javier,
Javier?
I'm not sure. I'm not Javier.
Oh no,
Oh,
you're good. You're good. I thought you were trying to pronounce his last name.
no, I nailed it. Martinez.
Yeah,
Right?
you did.
All right, Javi. I don't know. I don't know why you wouldn't have a succession plan in place. Maybe it was going to be Mick Lombardi. And Josh said, hey, you know what? We want you to come out here with us. Maybe it was going to be Nick Caley. That was the most reasonable succession plan. Tight ends coach comes up and then becomes the offensive coordinator. That's what the Patriots have always done. They promote from within, don't give them the title. So speculation is, and Albert Breer, my buddy over at MMQB, has said that a big reason for that is same thing that I was mentioning with O'Brien. It was trepidation about whether or not this guy was going to be one and done because he was entering, Caley was, the last year of his contract. So again, he got himself painted into a corner a little bit. And I think he thought, you know what, I'll just fix it this way. What's the worst that can happen? We got a smart quarterback. We got two smart coaches. Joe knows quarterbacks, Judge. I know quarterbacks. I thought Bill could have done it. I was saying last April, I'm like, if you need an offensive coordinator, what's the word? I mean, Bill Belichick's the greatest of all time. It was harder than I thought. And surprisingly, it was harder than he thought. As for Mac Jones, you got to ride with him. You know, he's a good player. He's not great. He's not very good. He's limited. It's arm strength. You know, a little bit of quickness and mobility. I'm not sure about the tenor of his leadership in 2022 wasn't great, but his teammates swear by him. But you got to get him 1 year where he comes in 2023 and he doesn't have to fight with Cam Newton for the job. And he doesn't have to deal with all this crap on the offensive side of the ball. And he can just hit the ground running with a legit offensive coordinator as a third-year pro and see how it goes.
Well said.
Thanks,
And
you pay me for this.
You know, I will say this. I guess what you know, I guess because me and Javier actually we work on a Cowboys project, Dallas Cowboys project, and you know, we had to eat crow, as they say. You know, Dak Prescott, he is not an off-script quarterback. He cannot play off-script, and so I guess he's kind of asking you, can Mac Jones say, you know what? Okay, you know what? This is not working. You know, give me this route and I'll hit you in the numbers. You know what I mean?
I think he could when he gets to that point, but it's a point that you have to get to. Like I used to watch, I had the privilege, and this is one of the great privileges you get covering the Patriots. I had the privilege of watching, you know, Randy Moss and Tom Brady walk down to the other end of the field by themselves during training camp practices and run route after route. I remember watching Brady, Gronkowski, and Darrelle Revis. They would go down, they'd go to the 5-yard line, and they would work on just leverage reps. And Brady used to talk about, I've been playing with Gronk so long now that I can tell, even if he's 20 yards downfield, by the shape of his shoulder dip, what he's about to do.
Wow.
That takes a long time. Mac Jones needs to spend that time with whoever it's going to be that's going to be great so that you can understand it. Same thing with Deion Branch and Brady. Dak, I mean, he needs to spend that time with CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Dak is he's in the same. I mean, by the time it's done, Mac Jones will probably be in the same general world as Dak Prescott. Fine, okay, playoffs, couple Pro Bowls. But I'm just still dumbfounded at some of the picks that Dak threw where he never looked anywhere else. Never looked anywhere else. Just stare people down, threw it in there. I'm like, how can he not see that guy? It was the Niners game, right?
Yeah, the Niners game.
Was it Fred Warner or something? I'm like, he's just standing there.
The first one was on the second one was a fluky one that Fred Warner ended up being Tre'Davious Ward, but you're talking about the Lenore.
The first one, the first one
game.
was just looked like it was bad compete. The second one was like I didn't like the second one because I thought he stared it down. Anyway.
Yeah. I mean, that like you said is questionable, but that's good that you're able to have that insight with Mac Jones. So let me ask you this. obviously you've been covering the Patriots, and it looks like, I hate to keep on bringing up the Cowboys, but it seems like the Cowboys are kind of taking that same approach as the Patriots, which is building through the draft and, I guess what's the right word?
Try to grow from within, grow the culture from within, kind of.
Correct. And develop these players to be what they need for their scheme to work, right? So it looks like it's doing that, but at what point do the Patriots and the Cowboys look around and say, "Hey, the guys that are in there, the teams that are in the Super Bowl, these guys actually played to win. They paid to win the Super Bowl." I mean,
right.
Look at the Eagles. A lot of their players, some of them, their core players, they were drafted. A lot of them are literally players that they got like a year ago. The same thing can be said for the Chiefs. Chiefs went out there. They really made sure that they put the pieces around them. So my question to you is there a time when, let's say, the Patriots, teams like that, say when is the right time? I guess this is the right question.
To spend like an idiot?
Yes.
When you have Tom Brady, when you got Patrick Mahomes, when you think you're that guy away. What would piss me off if I was a Cowboys fan would be to look at that offensive line, know how good it was, and know that it's at home watching. Because you look at the Eagles, they got a second-round pick, a quarterback. They have a Devontae Smith, 13th overall. People walk past him. I thought, too, because he was too damn skinny. He's still a good player. They have some beasts on, obviously. That was a good spend on Hassan Reddick, right? They get some other beasts on the defensive line, but most of the fiber of that team, in my estimation, is the offensive line. Dallas should have that. The Patriots don't have that. Kansas City does to a degree with Tooney. Trent Williams is there. I don't know. Most of these teams have drafted their unicorns or semi-unicorns, whether it's, Tyreek originally with Kansas City or Kelsey or Mahomes. You got your unicorn with Mahomes. There's nobody on the Patriots that's going to make anybody nervous on either side of the ball. People are going to go, "Oh, Duggar's pretty good. And Uche and Judon are pretty good." But no one's going to say, "My God, we've never seen a player like this." And all these teams have one of those. Nick Bosa, Devontae Smith with the speed, Hurts with the interior running ability. And their defense is complete. Same thing with, they're dotted all over these teams. And that's the thing, in my estimation. You better have one guy, and the Patriots had it, not just with Brady. They had it with Gronkowski. They had it with Edelman. They had it with Hightower to an extent. They had it all the way through. So you got to find those guys who just make other teams just poop when they see them.
So real quick, Jay, I ain't mean to cut y'all right quick.
No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah, on that topic, you said the Patriots don't have that guy that keeps teams up at night, but you said you don't think the Patriots should draft a receiver or trade for a receiver.
I know.
So,
come on, Kendall, give him a break, man. But
no, he's right. He's right. I'm being a tight ass over here. I'm worried about Bob Kraft's money. What's wrong with me?
Come on, Tom, spend the money. Spend.
Because I look at guys like James White, 4th round pick. It was a system that made these guys, James White or Kevin Falk. Find the guys other teams don't want, fit them into your system that's really difficult to defend and get after it. But the Patriots don't want to do that anymore. They don't want to run that complicated system with those option routes. And you guys all know what option routes are, which means during the drop, the quarterback is reading leverage and the receiver has to read the leverage as well and the coverage and react after the snap. So they're looking at all these guys coming out of college and they're like, shit, none of these guys can figure that stuff out after the snap. We're not going to be able to run that offense. That's why to veer to this kid, Tyquan Thornton, who's a blazer and doesn't have that quick three, that short shuttle, that 3-cone that the Patriots have always wanted, where a guy can just sit down, shimmy, and break out, and ball's there, and there goes 14 yards. They want, which is great. I want fast people too. I love fast people. They're a boring ass team to watch.
A lot of Patriots
on here. Is this a G-rated podcast?
No. You say what you want. We're all good.
A lot of Patriots on Twitter are falling in love with Zay Flowers. So just want to
love him. Perfect. That's the guy I'm talking. That's the kind of guy I'm talking about.
So look, Javier says that hurt being a Cowboy fan, Tom, but you're 100% correct with the previous statement. Tom,
That offensive line, too good. And you kind of get a guy like Trayvon Diggs to stop jumping routes. I mean, that's embarrassing.
And then do you see what he's doing right now? He's unfollowed the Dallas Cowboys from his bios. He's literally upset. I think
These
it's
guys,
I think it's a contract situation. But I actually think that I don't know if it is a contract situation because I believe that Cowboys Twitter, the actual official Twitter, actually took a direct shot at Trayvon Diggs after his last performance. Like they did similar to Dak Prescott, which is kind of weird. Whoever's handling it, they're handling it with their emotions and not handling it right. But no, you're right, Trey Diggs.
imagine, Jerry, you're Mike McCarthy or Jerry Jones or Bill Belichick. You know, what's the matter with Trayvon? Well, our Twitter account, and then your head's in your hand already. And okay, our Twitter account. Okay, and then what? And then he unfollowed us. And you're like, holy shit. 80 years ago, 50 years ago, we had guys in 18 years old fighting in wars to stop the march of Nazism, to be in the Viet Cong. And now we got guys all in their feelings because somebody said something on a social media app. I mean, just toughen up. Sorry.
No, there's nothing wrong with what you said. There's nothing wrong with what you said. I'm
Do you
with
ever think
you.
of that, guys? Do you
Yeah,
ever think of like
I'm with
what
you.
20-year-olds were doing?
I mean, look at Jimmy Johnson. He would cut a player if he would cut a kicker if he missed the field goal. You know what I mean? Like, can you imagine that guy from having a job to not having a job just because you did not do your job? So
Imagine Brett Maher, with Jimmy Johnson.
He wouldn't put up with it. He wouldn't put up with it. But let me ask you this. I mean, obviously, it's clear to me that you love what you do, right? For anybody, especially like us, me, Kendall, and Fidel, we're trying to get into this space too. I mean, what kind of advice would you say that you could give us to help us take that next step?
Sure.
Yeah.
I'd say watch how other people do it. Watch how the people that you like do it. Like, I'll do it right now and for the pod. Fidel hasn't said anything in 15 minutes. You guys are taking turns. That's not the way it is in a room.
Oh, let's go. All right.
That's not the way it is in a room. You guys, we would have a conversation. And if we have to, at the beginning of the pod, say to each other, if I take my glasses off, you're coming to me. If Kendall says I'm going to put my hat on like that, coming to me. That way you're giving each other signals. So it's a much more free-flowing conversation. And I understand I do the same thing sometimes with put my questions down and I want to be organized and I want to be specific so that I get everything and I don't waste someone's time and it doesn't look like friggin' recess. But you guys all got great personalities. You all love the game. I would say let the personalities in the conversation flow and then get into some of the stuff too, either or. Who would you rather have, Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts? Stuff like that. People love that
edgy
stuff.
Yeah, the
argument talk.
What is it?
You better say something.
I got a couple good questions that I actually wrote down that I wanted to ask you before we let you go.
Absolutely.
But I'll let Jerry.
No more taking turns. You guys have taken too many turns.
I just want to know, what is it that you love so much about everything you've been able to do with this? Because I mean, you make it fun, man. You know what I mean?
9:30. Kendall's like, how about 9:30 on Monday night? I'm like, but he was persistent.
Yeah.
And he was nice. And he never said, oh yeah, you haven't answered my email the first 3 times I emailed you. So like I was like, okay, I'll do 9:30 on Monday night. I don't want to. I've been sitting out there watching TV. My wife went to bed and I'm just sitting on the couch waiting. I'm like, but I told this guy because you guys love the game and you're into it. And I want, you root for people who love the game. And I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time in my life to do these things, and I was good at it. I was a really good writer. I wanted to be a sports reporter from the time I was in about 4th grade, once I realized I was not going to play. So and I paid plenty of dues, covering field hockey and Pop Warner football and cheerleader contests and you name it. Up until I was 35, I didn't start working for a major metro paper. So, but I would just recommend set your sights on making your product the best you can make it with a free-flowing conversation where the four of you, whoever your guest is, comes in and it's fun and fast-paced.
Well, Tom, he told you 6:30 because I'm out on the West Coast, so I appreciate you staying up a little bit later to chat with us. But before we let you go, I got to ask you, Tom Brady, what do you think is going to happen with Tom? You think he retires?
Ooh.
Goes back to Tampa, goes to Las Vegas, goes to San Francisco? What do you think happens?
Fidel, he's having it was mentioned by Clyde Christensen this week, one of the Tampa Bay assistant coaches. If you look at Brady, how much weight he lost. And I kind of figured that was the case as the season was going along, that he was torn up emotionally. And he was torn up emotionally. And just what I've gathered through folks I've talked to is he just wants to get his life in some semblance of order because it got flipped completely upside down at the beginning of the year. It wasn't something he anticipated. At the end of the summer, what happened when he left for 2 weeks to try and work out, and then his life got turned upside down. So I think right now he's trying to get things in order. I would say San Francisco would make sense if you're Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch. You don't want to sit there in 15 years and go, you know what? We still should have tried to get Brady that time.
Ooh.
They've already missed on it twice. I would, if I was Miami, I would say, Tua, why don't you take a year and try and get your head straight? Seriously, take a year. We're going to bring Tom in. If I would clear the way for him because he's still got all the arm in the world. But if I was Tom Brady, you know what I'd do? I'd take the year off. Take the year
At
off,
45?
get my stuff straight. Doesn't make a difference. Does not make a difference. He led the league in completions. He led the league in attempts. There is no reduction in arm strength. There is absolutely no reason that 46 or 47 is going to make a friggin' bit of difference. I'm 55. I'm going to go dominate tomorrow on the basketball court. Dominate. Okay, I won't dominate, but I'll drill jumpers.
Good points, Tom. And look, my last question before we let you go, I got to ask you about Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler. I'm a Las Vegas Raiders fan. Obviously, not the way that we wanted the season to go.
Nope.
You know, the organization moved on from Derek Carr, so now there is that opening. Do you think that Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler can get the job done in Las Vegas?
I do. I really do. I've known Josh for a long time. I feel like I've got a good professional friendship with him. I can't understand how they could lose so many soul-crushing, mind-numbing games. I mean, the combination of the Jacksonville blown lead, the Indianapolis Colts was Saturday, blown out by the New Orleans Saints. I mean, it's just mind-boggling losses. So I think that there is the difficulty in moving on from, and it wasn't Fangio, Bisaccia? I get my Italians mixed up there. Bisaccia, moving on from him. Those guys were attached to him. Josh tries to bring in a culture, and I think that there was a little bit of a resistance to how are we going to do this? And they were not a disciplined team either. So buy-in. You got to have it.
Were you there for the brand? Were you were there with Daryl when Daryl Rivas was there?
I've been here since '97.
So you saw? Is it true that him and Brandon Browner got into an actual fight? Like,
I didn't ever see that or hear about that, and I don't think that would have gone well for Rivas.
Yeah, because Brandon Browner's 6'4".
Rivas is tough. He threatened to slam me once.
I will tell you this: Rivas is probably one of my favorite players that I've ever seen play. But
I'll tell you the funny story. I'll tell you the Rivas story. So we're in the locker room, and I used to do a show with Deb McCourty called Quick Slants. I did it with Mayo too. So I get along with those guys, but I don't pretend like I'm friends with them. I get along with them, but something was said. It was right after the Pro Bowl voting, and somebody said Reeve instead of Rivas. And McCourty said, "Did you just call him Reeve?" I said, "No." I said, "We're not friends." I said, "No, I wouldn't call him Reeve." And he goes, "What?" I said, we're not friends. I'm not friends with you like that. He goes, you want to get slammed? I'm like, nope, definitely don't want to get slammed. Nope, not on my list of things that I want by a future Hall of Fame corner to slam me. Thanks, Dev.
I love it, man. I love it.
Hey, Tom, is McCourty coming back, or you think he's retiring?
He's definitely thinking of retiring. I'd say it's more likely than not that he will retire, Kendall.
Showbiz, man. He's destined for it.
Yeah.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Everyone, make sure you guys go and subscribe to Patriots Talk Podcast. Follow Tom Curran at Tom E. Curran on Twitter. Thank you so much for your time, sir. Really appreciate it. We hope to talk to you down the road soon.
Thank you very much. We'll do this again sometime. Earlier.
On the weekend.
Fine.
Appreciate it, Tom. Thank you, everyone out there, for watching and listening. We'll talk to you guys soon. Have a good night.